Here we go to the second part of our session together on women in science and technology. We're going to look further into risk and opportunities, in particularly in AI, but also ask what are some of the risks regarding privacy, ingrained biases, where do we need to pay most attention to avoid these risks, and what are some examples of new technology, AI, virtual learning, disruption, telemedicine, and what is the role also of policy, legislation, governance, building trust as these transformations take place. So I have with me today our first speaker in this segment, which is Roberta Russo. And Roberta is very experienced in this field. She's a cloud business manager at HPE, and she's worked for more than 20 years in the HPE organization. She is an electronic engineer from the prestigious Politecnico di Milano, but she has also studied strategic planning and business at the London Business School. I know she mentors lots of girls. She's passionate about exactly, making sure we have good role models in the field, and also that we all feel empowered to do that. And so a lot of work she does besides her company job in empowering women across the planet. So Roberta, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And maybe we can directly go to next slide. So what I'm going to share with you is some thoughts about the incredible benefits and opportunities that AI is bringing us, but also to highlight some of the risks that we need to be aware of. So AI is all around us, even if maybe sometimes we don't realize it. So let's start with some examples. So one typical example is the one of the content recommendation applications from Amazon, suggesting us what product to purchase, or Netflix or any other streaming application proposing us a movie to watch. Another classic example is the one of image and video processing, not only as in security cameras, but more simply, for example, the facial recognition feature of our smartphone, and also application that can help us sorting photos based on the people and the face in it. And these are examples that we use every day, maybe without even realizing that there is an AI algorithm behind. There are then more recent and maybe less known examples of AI applications. For example, in the legal professions, with AI helping in analyzing contracts. In journalism, where AI can help in identifying fake news, or even in creating a personalized newspaper, like, for example, with the New York Times. Very relevant in this period, for sure, is the great contribution of AI in the healthcare area, but also in other areas like arts, where AI can help in creating poems, text, pictures, and so on. So whatever is your area of interest, or professional or personal, for sure there are already AI applications to improve processes, to improve relationship with customers, with vendors, and so on. Next, please. So, but what is AI? What is artificial intelligence? So we often hear AI and machine learning used as synonyms because machine learning is a fundamental element of AI and where we are more focused on. In reality, if we want just to give a definition, we may say that AI is, let's say, the science that studies how computers can try to simulate human intelligence. Now, this is in general. Machine learning instead, and we will talk about this, is a subset of AI where a machine learns from data without being explicitly programmed. No, like kids who learns seeing a lot of examples. Then, just for your info, you may hear also the term deep learning, and this is a subset of machine learning that is using neural network for the learning phase. And a lot of progresses, most recent progresses have been done in this last area. Next, please. So learning is a key element of artificial intelligence. And if you think about it, learning is a key element also in human intelligence. Machine learning is divided in different areas accordingly to the kind of problem that we are trying to solve, and also the different methodology that are used. So we talk about supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. We use supervised learning when we have an input, a picture, a road sign, a radiography, and we need to predict an output or a label. So is this a stop sign? Is this the picture of a dog? And so on. So this method is used when the question is known. So is this the image of a pathology? Is this a stop sign? And it's important not only the amount of data. Of course, we need a lot of data to train the algorithm in digital format. But it's also important to have the labels. So someone who can say, okay, this is a stop sign in this simple example, but also to have doctors being able to label a certain radiography as the radiography of a specific pathology. And this is the reason why in China, back in March 2020, they have been able immediately, when the pandemic started, to apply AI to the CT scan analysis, because not only they had the CT scans available in digital format, shared among the different hospitals, but also they had the doctors who labeled all these CT scans in a digital format, and so they were available. So as you can see, it's important not only to have engineers and scientists working in AI, but also people from any different background, because it's very important to label the data. We use instead unsupervised learning when there are no right or wrong output. We don't know the question, but instead the objective is to try and identify some homogeneous clusters, for example, users or customers having a similar behavior. Reinforcement learning instead is used when we have a feedback with a certain delay about the choice done by the algorithm. An example is are the vocal recognition apps like Alexa, Siri, and so on, where maybe we are asked to repeat a word that the vocal assistant didn't understand. And with this reinforcement learning, the algorithm is improving. Next, please. Have you ever wondered how Netflix or Amazon or any e-commerce or streaming platform suggests you what movie to watch or which product to buy? This is very simple and is based on the concept that users having had a similar behavior in the past, most probably will have a similar behavior also in the future. And so the algorithm is suggesting us something that users similar to us have already wrote or chosen. And this method is called collaborative filtering. And this is also the explanation, the phenomenon that is called filter bubbles. I don't know if you have ever heard this terminology. This is the phenomenon based on which in Facebook or any other social media, we see only in the feed the post from a limited number of our contacts. Or maybe we are shown only news accordingly to our own point of view. This may be useful, of course, so we don't waste time choosing among thousands of movies, but it's important to be aware about this filter bubble. So maybe we can consciously decide that we want to look at different sources, maybe when we want to deep dive in a certain topic. Next, please. So now that we have very quickly introduced the basic concept about AI and machine learning, let's have a look at a few social implications of AI. So first of all, we need to keep in mind that all we have discussed is all based on data, big amount of data. And so if data are biased, also the algorithm will include and perpetrate this bias. For example, if we have an algorithm that is going to look for the perfect CEO for a company, is using data from the past, most probably we suggest a man, a white man, and maybe graduated at Stanford or Harvard or something similar. At the same time, if we test a medicine, a drug, only on men or white men, this may not work or be even dangerous on women, or on children, or people from a different ethnicity. The other implication that we need to keep in mind is what I call seeing is believing. No? So we are used to believe and trust what we see. If we see the video of a crime or a politician saying something, we tend to believe it more than if we read about it in a newspaper. We all know that pictures can be easily modified with Photoshop or even with simple filters on Instagram. And since some years, this is possible also with video. So for example, there is an application called Face-to-Face with the number 2 that allows to identify facial expression of a person and to apply them to another person in a YouTube video. No? So you can Google face-to-face and you can see some examples. And this phenomenon is called deep fake. So these are just 2 quick examples of some social implications, and there are many more. So the opportunities that AI offers for sure outweigh the risks. However, it's in order to reach a wide, broad acceptance of AI, it's necessary to build trust in AI applications. Next, please. And how can we build trust? So trust has to be built based on 3 main principles: fairness, so non-discrimination, transparency, so it's important that these algorithms are transparent, are explainable, and for sure respect of the privacy of the people. So Ayisha, after me, will deep dive on trust, the concept of trust, and how to build trust also through governance and regulation. But just let me spend my last two minutes about fairness. which is a topic that is really important to me. And it's also very close to WIN values and the focus. Fairness, so meaning non-discrimination, is probably the most important principle now that AI has to follow. And in this context, let me just mention two great women that are working on this. So one is Dr. Fei-Fei Li. She's a Stanford professor, and she's responsible for the Stanford Human-Centered AI Institute that is focused on making sure that AI is evolving with a focus on human beings. And she's also the co-founder of a non-profit association called AI for All that is aimed at increasing inclusion and diversity in AI education. The other great lady that I want to mention is Joy Bolamwini, and she's an MIT graduate, and she became famous in the last couple of years when she was working on her thesis, and she uncovered large racial and gender bias in AI in some largely used facial recognition software, because she discovered that this software was not able to recognize her face, so a woman, and in particular a Black woman. We don't have time now, but I suggest you to watch her TED Talk, or there is also a document Coded Bias in Netflix, because it's very, very interesting. And with this, I conclude, and I will hand over to Ayisha that will continue in some of the topics that we briefly covered. Thank you.
So, Roberta, thank you so much. And it's very, very interesting. And I think we all have had some experience with these algorithms. I was sharing with you also how we had put something on LinkedIn for WIN, and I was writing a sentence, and I wrote, let's take a stand for women or something like that. And the spell check on LinkedIn wanted me to say against.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I would say for. And then I also noticed that once I put an article by mistake, because I like to have very peaceful language when it comes to women and men and or collaboration. But one time I put one that was a little bit like women are against men or something. And then I got extremely many likes or visibility, sorry, not likes. And I was thinking, this is also, you know, let's never place these things on LinkedIn. Let's just be very conscious, and let's also like other women or other, it doesn't need to be women, but other people who write in this human way, in an inclusive way, so that it gets traffic. Or please suggest something. What can we do?
Well, I think that you know, it's I think it's important to stay updated about these topics, no? And as I was saying, AI is so, I mean, it's so fascinating for me because it impacts but needs the involvement of people of all kinds, of all backgrounds, but especially women, because there are so few women that are working in the tech field, and in particular in AI. And as AI is already now and will be more in the future impacting our lives, improving them, hopefully, it's important really that we are all involved, that we try to be informed about it, I mean, without being worried, not too much.
Yeah.
Yes.
But thank you, Roberta, for a very insightful and brief session. I loved it, and I think everybody does, because we need to know about this. It's like the ABC. We need to know this in this time we are living. So super grateful for your sharing, and we look forward to hearing more. And now I'm so glad to hand over the word to Ayisha Piotti, and who is so actually involved in AI also. And she's the co-founder and the managing partner of RegHorizon. She has a long corporate experience before coming to this organization. She's also passionate about looking how we can find strategic foresight, multi-stakeholder collaboration, and much more. She has worked more than 20 years in various large organizations, and also she has a degree in economics from LSE, various degrees in laws and so on from both Tufts, MIT, and also courses and degrees from INSEAD. So I know you are another powerful woman who knows a lot of things, and I know you will enlighten us with your presentation here today. Ayisha, the word is yours, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you, actually, Kristin, for this kind introduction. And thank you also to all the previous speakers for the insightful remarks. Now, Roberta has given you a short overview of what AI technology is all about, the benefits it can bring, but also some of the risks, the concerns, fears related to this technology as well. And as Roberta was talking, something else as a side note came to me. For those of you who like documentaries, I strongly suggest actually watching a few of them. One of them is called Great Hack, The Social Dilemma, The Cleaners, and of course, Coded Bias, which is something. And I think, in my opinion, they capture very well the essence of some of these risks that Roberta was mentioning, as well as some of the discussions that are going around AI now, which are becoming very mainstream. So it just was just a side note.
Yeah.
At the same time, I have another statistic for you, and that is that according to a recent survey, 86% of major US corporations predict that artificial intelligence will become mainstream technology for them this year. So why is that? Because of course, as we've heard, it offers immense benefits, ranging from increased productivity and business processes, consumer engagement, but also, due to the contribution that it can make in domains of healthcare, climate change, food safety, and so on. So the key challenge we face as a society today is how do we capture, on the one hand, the benefits of artificial intelligence, but at the same time, how do we minimize its risks? And why do we want to do that? Because if you do not minimize the risks, the trust in the technology is going to erode. And we saw a recent example of that phenomena. For those of you who are based here in Switzerland, the Swiss government recently proposed the use of an AI-driven COVID app. It's a tracing application for the population, and the aim was really to contain the outbreak. But it failed, and because as citizens, we didn't trust that our data was going to be protected. And so nobody used it, so there was no adoption. So clearly, whilst AI is a force for progress, it cannot move forward unless there is trust in the technology. So the next question you ask is, so how do we build this trust? So now this question is very critical, but it generates many different sort of answers depending on who you go and pose the question to. At the same time, I'm a strong believer that in a democratic society, lawmaking is an important way to find solutions to challenges such as the one that we are facing today with AI. And effective governance is a key way forward to build trust, as long as the process is inclusive and all voices are heard. And research has also shown that citizens are more likely to trust laws which they understand and which they can see being enforced. So in the area of AI now, the debate has recently moved from the need to put in ethical frameworks and principles around AI to really call for binding regulations in this area. And this means laws which are enforceable by governments. So, of course, at the same time, having a global set of rules is very important for us, not only as citizens, but also as businesses, because businesses, they need to safeguard, they need to have predictability, you have to minimize your risk, safeguard your reputation, but of course also build trust in your product. And we heard about that, consumer confidence. Hajar talked about how important it is also for companies. So the next question we ask is, so what is the latest in binding regulations around AI, and how can we prepare for what is coming our way? So indeed, in April this year, the European Commission made the very first move to propose the first ever comprehensive set of rules to govern the use and application of AI. The draft EU AI Act is now expected to be discussed before it will be finalized and then adopted by 27 member states of the EU. Now, it is important to highlight the extraterritorial reach of the EU draft, which makes it very important for businesses and communities also outside of the EU to be aware of these developments and, if possible, to provide input into the process. And what do I mean by extraterritorial reach? It's really, if you are a business based outside of the EU, but you are selling your product to the EU, you will need to be abiding by this particular regulation as well. And of course, if you're within EU and you're even if you sell outside, you need to be abiding by it. Now, like the EU's GDPR, which was enacted in 2018, the artificial intelligence regulation is expected to help set a template for governments for around the world on regulating emerging technologies. So clearly, it's a very important piece of legislation. Now, whilst it's a 108-page document, I'm now going to summarize it for you in a few minutes. So here's what you really need to know about the proposed legal framework. The aim is to make Europe world-class in development of secure and trustworthy human-centered artificial intelligence and to build trust in the technology. So when the draft was in fact published, the Executive Vice President of Digital Policy at the European Commission clearly stated, and here I'm going to quote, "With these landmark rules, the EU is spearheading the development of new global norms to make sure that AI can be trusted." Now, the proposed framework takes a proportionate and risk-based approach based on the logic that the higher the risk that a specific AI product may cause to our lives, the stricter the rules around it need to be. And actually, based on that logic, it categorizes AI systems in 4 main categories. It's actually like a pyramid. So at the bottom of the pyramid, you have applications that represent minimal or no risks. For instance, filters that recognize spam messages and block them from entering your inbox. I mean, there are no rules for this. A little bit higher up, you have got limited uses of AI, such as chatbots, for example, that help you to book a ticket or buy something. And basically, you have to have transparency obligations for that, which means that the aim is to make it crystal clear for the users they're interacting with a machine. Next category, which is actually the most important, is high-risk AI systems. And this is the main focus of the framework. And it is considered, a system is considered high risk because it can interfere with important aspects of our lives. So for example, when AI filters through candidates' CVs for education, for job applications, or for hiring or firing, or systems that will assess whether somebody is worthy to get a loan or a mortgage, or software they use, for example, self-driving cars or medical devices, if anything can actually, bring new risks to our safety and health, then that's what will be covered. In fact, the draft has identified sort of, 8 categories, but I don't have time really to go into that right now. Now, the high-risk systems will be subject to new strict obligations with regards to data, documentation, transparency, oversight, accuracy, cybersecurity. And of course, the very last, there is at the top of the pyramid, those limited uses of AI, which will be banned as well. And these are really those that cause physical or psychological harm, or systems like, social scorings as they're using in China. Now, the next important point is that under the proposals, companies that violate the rules could face fines for up to 30 million euros, or up to 6% of their annual global revenue. Now, as a reference, for Facebook, this would be up to $5.2 billion on their 2020 sales, and for Google, about $11 billion. So essentially, very high fines. Another point to note here is that this is really just a draft right now. So over the next years, we can expect intense public debate on the topic, and that will shape the future of this technology and indirectly the future of our children as well. So now is a crucial time to get up to speed with what is going on, analyze what it means for your business, and get involved in the process. And one last point I wanted to make was that, when we talk about EU, I am basically talking about EU, but there are other parts of the world as well, like USA, China, which might have slightly different views with regards to regulating AI, but we don't have time to go into it. So finally, these regulations, as they move forward, it is critical that the process is inclusive, Citizens, elected representatives, businesses are all well informed and also empowered to have their voice heard. So as a business leader, as a citizen, my message to you would be to proactively follow what is going on, understand and assess the impact and get involved in the process. And that's, of course, what we are facilitating at RegHorizon. And one point is that you definitely do not need to be an engineer or a data scientist to participate in this debate. I mean, as women, we need to support each other. In RegHorizon, we recently had a global conference that took place just a week ago. We had over 50 panelists from around the world, and almost half of them were women. We had 6 panels, and all 6 panel chairs were women. So, and these were incredible experts, technology, policy, government, entrepreneurs, academics, ethicists, all of them were there, and these were women. So it's actually a real honor for me to be part of such associations as WIN that works not only to raise this topic, but also to motivate and guide us all towards the common goals of achieving, of course, equality, diversity, and inclusion in all walks of life, and also to help us to change the world. So thank you, WIN. Yes. Thank you, Kristin. It's an absolute pleasure. And it was wonderful to share my views. And please, of course, feel free to be in touch with me if anybody wants.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing with you such an overview in such a quick time. But I think this is what we also need. We need to know, and then we can go more into the depth. And also, thank you for the call to all of us to be active as whatever we do, whatever is our background, to be active in the debate, because a lot of it has to do with ethics, a lot of it has to do with normal humanity. So I'm very happy that you shared that and made us also hear how many other women are active in this field.